Hi, and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty. I am the host and creator of ADHD Friendly and the ADHD-Friendly.com website, where everything I do is designed to struggle less and thrive more. So I invite you to check it out if you're looking for a little bit more support in your life with your ADHD. This is episode 160. Every 10th episode, every episode ending in a zero. I have to say things like that because math, I know Becca's laughing at me like, seriously? Is a special, I call it a special 10 episode where I focus on personal owner's manuals. So today I'm going to be talking about making a holiday POM, a specific POM for the holidays. And then I'm also going to give a little tip if maybe a seasonal POM might be your way in. There's no right or wrong way to make a personal owner's manual. So today I'm just going to highlight starting with a POM if that is something that might serve you a little bit over this holiday season. And then as always, I'm going to start with a celebration. So my celebration is around my walking routine. I have really been proud of the routine that I established walking, but have really struggled this fall to keep up with it. So it's a little bit of my intention where I gave myself permission to take 24 days off this year in my 24 for 24 list. And that undermined a little bit the consistency. It worked really well for the first 6 months, but over the summer with the heat, it fell off a little bit with my traveling, just a bit. I found like my motivation to keep up with it. But then when the season started to change and it got really dark in the morning, that darkness, it's hard for me to get out and walk worrying about, we have coyotes here, or we have, people driving and not paying attention. And if I'm walking around in the dark, it makes me nervous. So that was making me have a lot of resistance. So what I noticed was, because it's just so beautiful right now, because we're like in the peak of fall season, that I just started moving my walk kind of out of necessity to right before lunch. And what I noticed is it's typically really bright and sunny, and I get to enjoy all the fall colors. And if it was super cold, it's warmed up, and it's, even if it wasn't cold, it's not hot. So there's really no downside. And that little tweak has really made a big difference. And I'm fully back into it and I look forward to it. And then with the time change, it's, allowing me to go back into more of those mornings because it's later in the morning. So I just wanted to highlight celebrating that shift, because that cognitive flexibility is not a strength of mine. And it's important for us to capture those things at work, which kind of leads into the first strategy, which is the seasonal POM. And just before I get there, I do want to share what I purchased this week. The only things I purchased were for the podcast related to next week's episode, and that is our 4th annual ADHD Friendly's Favorite Things for 2024. Check that episode out to learn about the 24 things that made the list this year. But I had to get a few things to highlight, because I don't just want to hold up pictures of everything, and some things that I've been using really aren't looking like I want to share them and hold them up. So I had to get a few. So that's all I purchased for that episode. And even a couple of things for Becca and I to wear to be matchy-matchy for that episode. It's always a fun one. So that's coming next week. But on to my tip for this week, and that's to start a seasonal POM. So I've shared in many episodes, this is my personal owner's manual. It's bulky. It has lots of tabs, lots of gold, lots of gems that I have mined and culled and put together in this one manual. I've shared how I love a disc notebook because I can take things out and move them around really easily, and it's very sparkly. What I ended up doing was a library program this week, which is also another little celebration because it was kind of a social thing. It got me out of the house and into a program where I learned something new. It was on bullet journals. And bullet journals are one of those things that are really marketed to be ADHD friendly. I personally have not found them to be ADHD friendly. Just in my perfectionism, I struggle to make a lot of the decisions that had to be made, and the fatigue that comes from having to lay it all out and all of that. But what I noticed was I like the idea of a seasonal POM. So I'm just sharing a page that I made. If you're checking out this episode, listening to it, and you want to see the visuals, check out my YouTube channel, ADHD Friendly, where they gave us, they literally gave us, everybody got, yes, everybody got, and I picked a little snowflake because I picked the blue because it reminds me of snow. You guys know I love winter and anything cold. But it allowed me to put some tabs, and I thought I loved the idea of capturing those change of seasonal things that we notice. Like I notice a lot with my clients. They'll tell me they get a lot of energy in the spring and the summer, but they'll kind of struggle to get things done in the fall and the winter. It's a place to capture your patterns, a place to notice, like, what are the things that I do chores wise around the house in the spring or the fall? What are the things that I need to do clothing wise when I swap out? What do I want to remember I took out last year and I want to buy next year? Whatever it is, it just gives some structure to the holidays that happen each season. Like I just shared my walking tweak to remind me next year that was a really easy adjustment just to go before lunch, because it was a nicer time and I got to enjoy the leaves, and it had a lot of benefits for that shift. Ordinarily, I love to get up and go out first thing in the morning, but apparently in the fall, I liked just going during lunch. So capturing those kinds of things in a seasonal personal owner's manual can really be a game changer to support yourself each year going forward. So I just made a note of a couple of things that I want to highlight a seasonal POM could be good for. You could focus on the holidays that happen throughout those different seasons. Maybe having pictures or ideas of what are your favorite, like I forget literally sometimes what things I wore from season to season. So like when I unpack my winter or fall things, I'm like, what did I wear this with? Oh, I love these shoes. What did I wear these shoes with? I'm not good at that kind of thing. So I won't remember what I accessorized or put together. So I love the idea of taking pictures and putting them in there to remind me, like, oh my gosh, this is like your favorite cardigan that you paired with this and looked super cute. So maybe that kind of thing would be, or if like your swimsuit, like what's your favorite coverall or your favorite shoes to wear because they worked really well on the beach as opposed to on the boardwalk. I don't know. Maybe noticing your energy levels at the different times of year. Recipes. I am not somebody that likes to cook, but you give me some cold weather and I start thinking soups and like one pot dishes. So I started pulling together my own little section of recipes that are just the things I like to make that nobody else in my family makes, but I love making them when it gets cold outside. And so that's very sparkly for me. That I mentioned maintenance, maybe there's, your car getting inspected at a certain time each year. So you're remembering when you get to that season, these are the seasonal things kind of like over a 3-month chunk of time. We just had our HVAC, the furnace serviced. So remembering like getting those things scheduled and done can be helpful to have them all like in one structured place. So you're remembering like, oh, coming up on the summer road trips, want to get the tires rotated or whatever. Maybe you need to get your physical or go get your teeth cleaned, whatever it is that you have kind of some structure that you're adding to a seasonal POM. Your vacation would be a really important thing to remember in a seasonal POM. When my kids were young, and it's something I've really been intentionally trying to get back to in the last couple of years since the pandemic started easing a little bit and things started opening back up, was I used to go on weekend getaways with my best friends. Aww. And I would rotate and do like a different, go see one best friend one weekend, another. And we would just, like Friday to Sunday, that's it. Super fast and easy.
Well, weekend.
Yeah. But I love the idea of using a seasonal POM for each season. Like, where am I going to go this season? What am I going to do? Or even if it's just, a seasonal road trip where you're just going to take a day and go explore a new area so that you're remembering the intention around the structure of a seasonal POM. So I invite you just to explore if a seasonal POM structure would work for you. There are tools at ADHD-Friendly.com to help you start your personal owner's manual. And then my favorite way to start even more, because the seasonal was just kind of a newer idea that came kind of tying together the library idea of a holiday bullet journal. I was like, what about a seasonal POM? But my favorite way is a holiday personal owner's manual. So this episode is really going to dive into some tips to make a holiday POM so that you have one to support yourself each year. So here are my tips for starting your holiday personal owner's manual. So first is just to underline what is the purpose of a personal owner's manual for the holidays. Mine, I pulled it out of my POM so I could share it with you. It's not the neatest thing. It's kind of actually like, it's kind of a pile of paper, but I have it clipped together by holiday. Mainly I'm looking at Christmas and Thanksgiving and a little bit of Halloween. So I remember what I did. I tend to take pictures of my holiday decorations. So I remember how I set things up, and I don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel, because whenever I get out my decorations, I tend to think, who, like, even like I have like little like stocking holders, and I've had them. This is just how my brain works. And I hope you, my people, understand this, or some of you this resonates with, because this is definitely one of my challenges. I cannot remember whose is whose. So like everybody's stocking has their name on it, but everybody has their own stocking holder. And my kids will know if I gave them the wrong stocking holder when I hang them up, but I can never remember whose stocking holder is whose stocking holder. So I have a picture that I go and I remember, oh, that's right. So-and-so has Santa, and so-and-so has a reindeer, and so-and-so has a Christmas tree. Because my brain does not hold on to that. Right. It's like, I still don't remember which one of my kids likes mayonnaise or doesn't like mayonnaise and likes mustard, or likes both mayonnaise and mustard. I just used to put everything on the counter and be like, go.
Have at it.
Because I would always get it wrong. I still get it wrong. It's embarrassing, but it's true. So my purpose of a holiday poem is to create ease around the holidays. It's to allow myself to have a guide I can follow. And I don't have to use it for everything, but if there's something I could create more ease with, it's a way to go back and tap back into it, so that it always brings me joy. I always have this like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I wrote that down. Oh, this is so great. So because the holidays only come around once a year, this is something you're really doing one time a year. So it's essential. It's my favorite place to start one, because those annual things are the things that we really struggle, because we only do them once a year. It's so hard. It's not like we're repetitively doing it every week. We have to really stretch our brain back and try to hold on to what we were doing in the past. So one of the things that I love to do is to use the structure of the personal owner's manual for the holidays to begin with a budget. It's not a sparkly word, guys. I know. If anything, it creates a little bit of that tension and discomfort. But what I know about myself is, if I don't have at least an idea of what I'm navigating towards, I just start kind of almost like in a panic, willy-nilly grabbing things, and just, I just need to check it off as the most important thing, not what I paid for. And my goal is to give myself, almost like gamifying it with the budget, and give myself something to navigate towards, so that I have a sense of whether or not what I'm trying to do is possible. So it can be a way to set a budget. And then I explore, like, how do I keep an insight in mind? How do I remember what my goal was for spending? Because if I don't have it with me, or I don't have my brain's not going to remember a random number, I will go out into the world and see something. And then I'm like, did I already get them? How much did I have left that I was, trying to stay within, whatever that is. I also like to categorize the expenses. So I have like a gift budget. And then only in the last few years have I started including a travel budget, because we're always buying plane tickets, but I don't tend to, because we buy them kind of early in the season before I'm really even officially in holiday planning mode. And so they don't really end up on the holiday budget, but they really are holiday expenses. And so now I have a line item for that, so I can be aware that it's not this invisible, like it doesn't count. It does count. I have to keep it in mind. So I'm just, every year adding a little bit more to what I'm doing. And that's what a personal owner's manual lets you do, is remember what you've done and continue to add in and tweak it and improve it. And then it also lets me explore options if I can see what I'm trying to do. And let's say, like last year and this year, it just feels like everything's more expensive. And so I'm looking for more ways to either do it myself, or, cut costs by making it, or finding it on sale using coupons, that kind of thing. So I like to write down things that have worked in the past, so I remember that intention, and just to be able to use it a little more easily. So that's the first tip, is maybe in your holiday poem, you start with an overall plan for what you want to spend. Not the most sparkly, but it can be the thing that really makes the difference between really enjoying the holidays and then not having a holiday hangover, where you're getting the credit card bill and it's like, what did I do? Damn it. So then number 2 is, how do you manage changes and disruptions to your schedule? The holidays are almost in their core going to disrupt your routines. They just are. We're having company come in, we're traveling, we're eating food that's different, we are decorating, so everything in the house might look a little different. Depending on the holidays you celebrate, it might be minimally disruptive, it might be hugely disruptive. So having concrete calendars for yourself if you're on your own, but absolutely if you are within a multiple member family, something that people can see. And I really encourage having that conversation in advance, like how many events are we going to go to as a family?
Yeah.
If you have kiddos that can't tolerate a lot of those exciting things, like they love the idea, but they kind of have those meltdowns,
Yeah.
how many can you tolerate? Excuse me. How many can you kind of go to? And I always say, like, leave with the win, leave before everybody kind of melts down and you're dragging them out, one kid under each arm, like, thanks so much. Please come next year. It's just, it's not an easy thing, but if we talk about it in advance, we can kind of manage our expectations with that realistic lens of what we know is our pattern, instead of just kind of what I call like holding our breath and crossing our fingers and hoping everything works out. And that, I don't know about you guys, but that never worked for me. And then how do you return to your routine after the holidays? So capturing, I take pictures of things before I decorate, so I remember where things go. Because again, my brain does not, I just don't. I take things off the mantle, I take things off a bookcase, I clear the table to put up the train set. I have no idea, number one, where I put those things, and number two, how I had set them up previously to get them back to the way they were. My brain believes that I'll remember, but it does not have the executive functions to follow up and to support my future self to actually remember. So I like to take pictures. And the third way that you might begin your holiday POM is to just create a section for planning your travel, what you're going to do, where you're going to go, maybe your packing checklist, just a way to manage your energy. So let's say you're having people come in, they're traveling to you, or you're going to somebody else's house. If you need time on your own, I know being around family members can be a really trying thing over the holidays. If that's true for you and your family, maybe you're intentionally building and I always say, like, saying it up front is easier. So when I get to a family member's house, I may be like, oh my gosh, hey, I didn't get a chance to walk today, so I'm going to need to walk at some point before dinner or whatever. So if you want me to help, let me know what you need, but I'm going to need to get out and take my walk. It's so much easier than me trying to look for an opportunity to sneak out. If I've already said it, I can then say, hey, just remember, I mentioned I have to go for my walk. So I'm going to finish peeling these potatoes and then I'm just going to head out on a short walk. It gets me time on my own, especially if I'm in somebody else's house and I don't have my own space to go to, or I'll offer to run to the store. I'm like, hey, I noticed you kind of might need some ice, or I wanted to grab this thing for the kids. I'm just going to run to the store really quick and get it. So look for those opportunities to recharge your batteries and get some alone time if you need them. If you're staying multiple nights, and especially if there's not like a designated place for you, like, the proverbial like pull-out sofa in the middle of the family room, think about what you'll need to recharge your batteries. One of my favorite things, and this is not a healthy thing, but it's the truth. When I travel and I'm staying at somebody else's house, and I can be a little bit picky about food and I don't like to complain about it, I always pack a bag of peanut or almond M&Ms, like the big bag. I'm not talking about a little snack size, guys. I'm talking about the full-on bag of M&Ms, because then it doesn't matter what I have. If I grab a handful of those guys, number one, it's a treat, so I'm happy. Number two, the peanuts and or the almonds give me enough protein that I feel full and I can tolerate. I'm good.
The food.
Exactly. I'm good. I'm like, and I go with my M&Ms. It's totally, but it allows me to travel with ease. It's one of those little hacks. So it's, one of those things that I like the idea of jotting it down in your personal owner's manual, in your little travel section, to remind yourself when company's coming in, what do you need? When you're going somewhere else, what do you need? What do your kids need? What does your partner need? What are your dogs? Like, what are your plans? I always forget the dogs. They're the last thing I think of, where it's like a week before and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do with the dogs? It's like everybody's booked up. So having a way to remember that that's part of your checklist for traveling is really important. Okay. I also like to buy the dogs like a treat that they will be completely consumed with. So like the ding dong, and I'm like running and getting the big bone that I've held specifically for this, and they could give a crap who's at the door. They are so happy to have their bones. And there's no slobbering, there's no jumping, there's no hair getting all over people that don't have dogs, because they tend to be a little bit less
enthusiastic.
Okay, yeah, with all of that happening around them. All right, so that's it. Using it for a travel planner. The fourth tip is thinking about receiving and giving gifts. So coming up with a plan in advance for who am I exchanging gifts with? Is there a a budget, like a limit to the gift giving. And then, coming up with a strategy for talking it maybe for yourself, like how will I manage it if you have like, if like you struggle when people give you something you really didn't want, or you're uncomfortable because it's expensive, or you don't know if you'll be able to use it, like whatever. I always say, I don't have a poker face. You're going to know if I like it or not. And that's uncomfortable. So I kind of have to get my head into the game before I open something so that I'm not hurting anybody's feelings. And I'm able, and sometimes it takes me a little while to get excited about something if I'm not quite sure if it, especially if it wasn't what I wanted. Again, I don't have that cognitive flexibility. So if I open it and I'm disappointed, even though if I like it, but I can't kind of like it right away because I have to almost mourn the loss of not getting the thing I was hoping for. And then I'll come around to the excitement of what it is. So I have to kind of prepare myself for that so that I'm more able to be gracious and show up how I want to, and not kind of be the jerk that opened the thing and doesn't look very appreciative of the thought and the effort that went behind giving it. If you have kiddos that have executive function, weaker areas, this is really important for them too. They might be like, oh my gosh, I have this at home. And you're just kind of cringing. So, having ways to kind of talk through and come up with plans for how to manage those expectations. And same thing if you give something to somebody and they may not be the most gracious in receiving it, how to kind of stay in that space where we're just recognizing everybody's doing the best they can from where they are with what they have. So just remembering like, okay, maybe getting gift receipts or whatever. So it's like, it was right there. If, you do it. I always say, I try as much as I can to give a gift and be okay with you doing whatever you want. You can give it to somebody else. You can donate. Like, I really am okay with it. Unless I knitted it, which is where I have a hard time because I'm very careful now about checking with people before I knit, because I don't need to see it, but it's like, oh my gosh, if you donated that, I think I would like, my little heart would break because it just takes me so long. But I'm like, oh my gosh, they become really precious, but that's a me issue. I'm sorry, I digress. Okay. Next tip is this is step 5 or tip 5, how to manage expectations for all ages. And this is more in line with the behavioral. So they can come up around gifts, but these can come up around anything. So it's, what are the conversational topics that we are not going to be discussing? We've already started discussing this in our house where I'm like, the election will be far over. We don't talk politics, but I really don't want to talk politics over the holidays, especially if it's still kind of going on, which it could be at that point. And so I'm like letting that be known. I don't care if we all live and agree. I don't care. We don't need to discuss it. I don't want to have that kind of stress coming into the gathering.
Of course.
So discussing those expectations. If you expect, like I expect some help decorating the Christmas cookies. There's certain things like the baking of cookies is like my thing, but I do expect, you don't have to help me, but I do like when people come in and hang out with me and talk to me while I'm baking a little bit, or when I get all the frosting out that, take a few cookies and slap some frosting on and help decorate a little bit. But if I don't say that and I'm just kind of quietly seething on my own, that's on me. Right. So, but if I let people know in advance, I only get to see you a little bit. I'd like a little bit of time. Is there a game that you'd be willing to play with us? I've shared this in the past. It's one of my Holiday POM tools is I have a list of games that my kids like to play. And I have a list of, if we play them alone, if we'll play them with other people, who else would like to play that game. And so this year, I've shared this before and I might talk about this in another episode. We're having a huge game of candy poker where we always play candy poker. And it's where, everybody is bringing their own one bag of their favorite candy, and all the candy gets divvied up.
Right.
And then you bet with your candy we always play Texas Hold'em, and we play until you're out. And it's just fun. It's just a fun way. And it's like, I like to it's one of those things I always say, like, you can kind of tell if I feel like I have a good hand because I'm not giving up my Reese's for anything. But if I'm putting a Reese's in, I'm kind of like, you want to come after me? Come on. Because I'm not risking losing them. It's not the best strategy. Maybe I'll bluff with that this year. But so managing those expectations, getting them in writing, getting really clear on what everybody would need to support themselves behaviorally. So especially if you have kiddos, it might be, I know that, grandparents are gonna be here. It's a really exciting time. We're all still gonna have quiet time. We're gonna have quiet reading time. Everybody's gonna go to their spaces and read quietly. I'll set the timer, but you're not allowed to come out during that time because we know that's what they need or whatever it is. That's what I used to do. Like, you're not allowed out of your rooms. I don't care, if you read, I don't want to read, you don't have to read, but you will be in your room quietly playing or whatever on your own. And half the time, more than half, they fall asleep, which is what I knew they needed because they were so overstimulated from all the people. All right, number 6, planning for those get-togethers. So whether it's a cookie exchange or a holiday party, the social dynamic. So having a section in your holiday POM for what you need to manage the stress. A lot of us with ADHD get very fired up and stimulated, which can be really fun, but it could be that tipping point where we get dysregulated and we're kind of oversharing, or maybe we're imbibing more than we intended to, or we're at a holiday party that has coworkers and maybe we, are doing something that our future self will regret. So preparing to take breaks, preparing for, kind of setting a rule for yourself. Like I basically have a rule if I'm around other people, I don't drink. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
Because I look like I'm drinking when I'm not because of my ADHD. And it's just been, I never knew until I was diagnosed that was why, but I used to be so uncomfortable because people always thought I was drunk. They're like, oh, she's gone. I'm like, I am drinking Pepsi. Like I literally have nothing. I'm not drinking. Yeah, this is just me, which is also embarrassing because I'm like, no, it's just me. But I also get really, really burnt out being around people. I get very drained because I'm very introverted.
Yeah.
And which is funny because people are like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, yeah. Like I am exhausted and I need to go recharge my batteries. So, share any needs that you have. If you're like staying at somebody's house, again, like kind of letting them know I'm going to need some alone time, or, I love to get up and kind of like, let me know where the coffee is. Are you okay with making my own cup of coffee? And is there some place I can sit outside if it's not too cold, or like a little like place I can go read? I like to read. Yep. And then maybe just, being aware of the sensory overload. Like when you're like, okay, I like, what are your tells? When are you starting to notice that it's a good time to kind of be like, okay, or like, what's the right number of parties? Like we talked about a little bit ago, like, what is it that that you can succeed with, and what's too much? I know if I try to commit to too many holiday things, like it's just, I'm not enjoying the holidays. I'm now stressed about the holidays, and that's not what I want. Okay. 7th tip is to create tools and visual aids. You guys know I am an ISM girl, insight in mind. So create visual schedules, whether it's using an advent calendar. So you can kind of like, these are like tips for like how to manage the anticipation of the holidays. A couple of my kids, I'm telling you, from this time of year, like pretty much October through December, a nightmare. Like it was the happiest time of the year, but they literally were so dysregulated all the time. And the schedules were just like, there was this energy in the air that they would pick up on. And it was so impactful that I knew it was coming each holiday, and that it wasn't intentional. It was literally out of their control. So having ways to manage that anticipation, we really go very heavy into the advent calendars in our family. We always did the paper chains, like making them so they could take them off every day before they could really count the days. It gave them that concrete visual way to see how much longer, how many more days, how many more sleeps. But it's important for us as adults too, to keep that concrete awareness of how much time do we have before the holidays, so that we can see, like, I like to like take my visual timeline and map out like, okay, I need to have anything in the mail by this date if they're going to get it by Christmas.
Right.
And it creates urgency. It makes sure that I'm very, very sensitive to the idea of something showing up after the holiday where I'm like, no. So, if I can see it, I can navigate towards it. If I can't see it, chances are I'm not going to hit it. So I recommend using a whiteboard, making a daily plan, having alarms set, anything that helps you to remember to transition, to get connected to a plan, to help follow through with your intentions. And then finally, number 8, my last and final tip is remember to plan and practice for self-care during the holidays. So it kind of taps back into kind of what we were talking about with the travel plans. And that's just literally not neglecting you time, even if it's 5 minutes a day that you're taking to give yourself something that you enjoy, that's just for you. That 5 minutes can be all the difference in being able to really get what you're trying to get from the holidays and enjoy them more, because I am all about struggling less and thriving more. So the Holiday POM is really just a guide It's a flexible tool. It is not meant to be rigid. It is not meant to, kind of hold you in these constraints of now I have to do this and then I have to do this. It's something for you to tap into when you need it, put it away when you don't. But having it, even if you don't use everything in it, is just, it gives you this sense of calm and peace of mind. I've shared this, I think, last year, where my husband and I have, for Thanksgiving, we have like a whole like spreadsheet that, it's who's in charge of making the different dish and what time are we eating, and then what time it goes in, how long it has to cook. It's all laid out. We follow it every year. We started this, I think, in 2018, and it's just so fun to have something to take. It's like plug and play. Like I just go back and I go right back into it. So that's what a holiday POM can give you, is a sense of control, a sense of inner peace. I even like to write down like who gave what gifts every year. The kids have loved that over the years, to go back to like, I remember that so-and-so gave me that. And it's only because I wrote them down, because we had to, try to get thank you cards in the mail. Sometimes they made it, sometimes they didn't. All right. So on to the book of the week.
Book of the week.
The book of the week. I'm excited about this one because I had a couple of duds that I read, and I'm like, I'm not going to just share a book just for the sake of sharing a book, but this one was a good one. So this is called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It came out in 2022. So this is not a brand new one. I've been reading some really new ones lately.
Yeah.
It's by Gabrielle Zevin. And it is about best friends who they meet when they are 11, and they go to college together. They become game designers. So it's really interesting because it's heavily about the world of game design, but through their relationships and their friendships. And I don't like video games. I never have, but I really enjoyed the story. Like I could really appreciate what goes into developing a story-based game. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed how it was written. I enjoyed the relationships between the main characters, and I recommend it. I gave this a 4 out of 5. I really found it a quick and easy read. I did not know, I don't know if you know the reference of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. That is a Shakespeare reference from Macbeth. It's a speech from Macbeth that he starts with tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I had no idea. It finally, at the very, I want to say like the last like 20% of the book, got to the part about it being from Shakespeare. And I was like, well, apparently that's what I get for not being into Shakespeare. I had no idea that that was a Shakespeare reference, but that's my quote of the week. I'm going to share a quote from Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, where they share this reference. So Marx is one of the main characters, and he says, they were talking about what a game is and like what was the point in the developing. They have like a hugely successful game that they're looking at making a sequel to. And he says, what is a game? Mark said, it's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It's the possibility of infinite rebirth, infinite redemption, the idea that if you keep playing, you could win. No loss is permanent because nothing is permanent ever. I loved that because my brain, my cognitive, like rational brain pushes back, like, that's not true. Some losses, like if somebody like, like my dad passed away, that loss is forever. That's not changing. But with some exceptions, I like that mindset of this is just this moment in time. It doesn't have to define forever. And so I like the idea of the possibility, the rebirth of gamifying things. And that's what this book really helped me to remember, is that a lot of what we do, if we can look at it as a game, as opposed to like defining us, it can really be a game changer. Okay. That's it for this episode. Again, this was episode 160. It is a special 10 episode. If there's anything that you do to help you to tap into your traditions, tap into your holidays around, even if you're not calling it a personal owner's manual, but it kind of, as talking through it, it really does sound like that's what you're doing. I'd love to hear what works for you. We all learn from each other. Please post in the comments in episode 160. Remember, next week, it's ADHD Friendly's 2024 favorite things. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.